Hey everyone, it's Rachel and welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my birth plan. When I started doing my research about labor and everything and what it was like, I realized there are so many things that go into labor, like interventions, medication, baby care. There's a lot of different parts of labor. And it's good to ahead of time get an idea of which things you would like to have for your birth and which things you're not so comfortable with. A birth plan is a great way to put together a list of the things you want to have at birth or do not want. And it also makes it easier to communicate with your birth team what your preferences are. If you write it all out, you can give it to them and go over it with them ahead of time, which helps them be aware of what your preferences are instead of getting there on the day of labor and as you're going through things being like, hey, I don't actually want this. Hey, can I have this? Going over it with them ahead of time, it gives them an idea of what you want and it makes it easier on the day that you actually go into labor. So since this might be a bit of a longer video, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is, what even is a birth plan? Maybe you haven't heard of a birth plan before and you don't really know what that is. Basically, a birth plan is a list of your preferences when it comes to your labor. You don't really need to have a birth plan, but if you have certain preferences, then it's definitely helpful to have them written down so that you can go over them with your doctor beforehand. It gives you an idea of what can and can't happen depending on what their policies and rules are. So now you know what a birth plan is, but how do you write one? For me, when I started looking into what I wanted on my birth plan, I went online and I looked up different templates to get an idea of what other people had said in it and how other people had worded it and that kind of thing, to get an idea of how I could write mine. It's also a good idea to do research ahead of time on all the different options. When I was looking into all of this, I found a birth plan by, I think it was Earth Mama's birth plan. If I can find it, I'll link it down below, but it's basically just a list with a whole bunch of tick boxes on all the different options. And I found that really helpful for just seeing what all the options were so I could familiarize myself and know what I wanted and what I didn't want. Something to keep in mind when you start writing your birth plan, something I read a bunch of different places, is to try to keep it to about a page long. If you hand your doctor a 5-page list of everything you want and don't want, that kind of thing, it will be a little overwhelming for them, and that can be a little unrealistic because you really have no idea what your labor is going to be like. And if you have a massive list of all the things you want and don't want, it can be so much harder to have your labor keep to all of those preferences because it's just so much and you never know what's going to happen. And also, if the list is super long, you are more likely to end up not getting everything you want because it's just too much and it's going to be a little bit frustrating for your team and you're less likely to actually end up getting what you want. So pick the things that are really important to you and put those on your list. Keep it about a page long and then you'll be good to go. Another thing you want to keep in mind is to try to avoid using wording like in no circumstance, under no condition, and do not, because this kind of wording can come off wrong to your birth team. It can seem a bit aggressive, and you also need to be a little bit flexible in your birth plan because you have no idea how labor is going to go, and it's likely that there's going to be something that happens that you did not expect. So be flexible and avoid using strict wording in terms like that. Question I had after I wrote my birth plan was, when am I supposed to bring this in and go over it with the doctors? They told me to bring it with me at my 37-week appointment because it'll be closer to my due date, so it'll be more fresh in their minds kind of thing. And also just in case anything changes. So the closer to the due date, the better. And they told me 37 weeks was a great time to go over it with them. So now I'll be sharing with you guys what I wrote in my birth plan. I kept my birth plan to about a page long, and I start off at the very top by listing my name, my husband's name, and my due date. Below that, I have a title called About My Health. And this is just where I mention that I have scoliosis. I have a curved spine. It's something I've already talked about my doctors with. They've kind of gone over with me how it might affect things and stuff. So they're already aware of it, but I just put it at the top of my birth plan. The next section on my birth plan is induction preferences. I really want to go into labor naturally without being induced, as long as me and the baby are both healthy. If induction is necessary, then I said I would really prefer to go with more natural methods first before trying less natural options to get the labor going. The third section on my page is about pain medication. I really want to try having an unmedicated birth. I'm okay with trying laughing gas. I've heard that that doesn't affect the baby at all, but there are some pain medications that can affect the baby a little bit, which is why I wanted to avoid them if I can. I also asked them to please not offer me an epidural unless I ask for it, just because an epidural is something I would really like to avoid. I'm just a little bit nervous about getting an epidural due to my scoliosis. They told me it could be a little bit harder to find the right spot, so I would prefer to go without it. If I do end up needing it, that's okay. I want to try to go without it. I know if they keep offering it to me, then I'll be less likely to go through with not having it. So I just prefer them not to offer it to me unless I ask when I think I really need it. The next thing I have on my birthing plan is the coping techniques I would like to use. And here I have listed that I want to use a birthing ball. I'm trying different positions and stuff to see how that works. That I want to try using water if possible, using a shower or the tub, that I want to try using massage, and also that I would like to have the lights dimmed and music playing. These are more just to give my hospital room a more calm environment to help me relax and not get super tensed and stressed and everything. It's a kind of environment that when I think of it, I think of relaxing and calm. So if I can bring that environment into my hospital room, I'm hoping it'll help me relax a little bit more as much as possible and help me just get through my labor a little bit easier. After that, the next thing I have is interventions. And I'm hoping to go for minimal interventions and intermittent monitoring, which basically means it's monitoring. It's monitoring that can happen while I'm up and about in the room walking around. I don't have to be restricted to one spot for them to monitor me. I really want to be as mobile as possible during my labor to be able to try different positions. And the last part on my list is baby care requests. And on here I put that I would like to have delayed cord clamping and that I'd like to have skin to skin and to try breastfeeding before all the routine procedures are done on the baby. I would just really like to be able to, after my baby's born, have some time with them just to bond, try breastfeeding before they're taken away to have a bath and get the different tests and things that need to be done. I want to have that time just to be able to be with them and bond with them for a little bit. So that is everything on my birth plan. I'm really hoping to go for, as you can probably tell, a more natural birth as much as possible. I'm not sure how much of this will actually happen, but these are the preferences and things that I think I would like and would make labor easier and a good experience for me. But something to remember when writing your birth plan is that your plan is not a be-all, end-all. For me, it's a goal. It's a goal for how I would like my labor to go, but it is not the definition of how my labor must go. As long as my baby is born, my baby is healthy, then my birth will not be a failure, even if I end up following through with none of the things on my list. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to stick around and follow my pregnancy journey and find out how my labor actually goes and if I end up following through with this plan, then be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.